All right, let's dive into one of the most incredible chapters in all of literature. We're talking about chapter 54 of Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. It's a single chapter where a carefully laid out plan goes completely, disastrously, and, well, kind of beautifully wrong.
And it all forces us to ask this one big question. Can absolute, total failure actually lead to your greatest success? For our main character, Pip, the answer is a resounding yes. But man, it comes at a price he never, ever could have seen coming. So, let's set the scene for this fateful escape. The stakes are just about as high as they can get. Pip and his buddies are trying to sneak the convict Abel Magwitch, you might know him as Provis, out of England. Now, if they get caught, Magwitch is a dead man, guaranteed. Their whole plan is this delicate dance of stealth, timing, and honestly, a whole lot of luck.
At first, everything seems to be going, pretty smoothly. They're rowing up the River Thames, it's all going according to plan. But then, that night, Pip spots a couple of guys looking over their boat. And right there, that's the first crack in the whole operation. It's this chilling little sign that maybe, just maybe, they're not alone out here.
And the tension just keeps building. They stop at a pub and overhear people talking about this mysterious four-oared galley that's been seen on the river. The rumor is it's full of customs officers in disguise. And suddenly, all that paranoia they've been feeling, it doesn't feel like paranoia anymore. It feels very, very real. They're being watched.
So now, we're at the ambush on the river. All that careful planning, all that anxiety that's been building and building, it's all about to come to a head. The quiet, dark river is about to become a stage for a truly dramatic and violent showdown.
Day 2, they finally get to the spot where they're supposed to meet the steamer that'll take Magwitch to freedom. But there's a problem. The steamer's late, and with every single second that ticks by while they wait, you can feel the trap closing in around them. They're just sitting ducks out there on the water, totally exposed, and all that hope they had is just draining away.
And then it happens. That mysterious galley they heard about pulls right up alongside them. A customs officer stands up, points right at Magwitch, and just shatters everything with 6 words. I identify that man as Abel Magwitch. The trap is sprung. It's over. There is no escape.
But hold on, this isn't just some random bust. Magwitch sees another man on the boat, pulls off his cloak, and who is it? It's Compeyson, his arch nemesis, the guy who betrayed him all those years ago. This was never about the law. This was a personal vendetta. Compeyson hunted him down just to make sure he was destroyed.
And then all hell breaks loose. Magwitch just lunges at Compeyson, and they both go tumbling into the dark water. In the struggle, Pip's little boat gets overturned, it capsizes, and it sinks. It's just total chaos. Men are flailing in the river, and their entire escape plan is literally sinking to the bottom of the Thames.
Now we get to the price paid. Because when the chaos finally dies down and the water settles, the cost of this whole thing is devastatingly clear. There was no winner here. It was just mutual destruction. All of it fueled by decades of pure, simmering hatred. I mean, look at the fallout. It is just total and complete devastation. Compeyson is gone, drowned in the struggle. Magwitch is captured, he's badly hurt, and he's in chains. And then, here's the final crushing blow. Every single penny of that fortune he worked his whole life for, the money that made Pip a gentleman, is seized by the crown. In an instant, it's all gone. They have lost everything. And that's the tragic irony of it all, isn't it? In the exact same moment that Magwitch finally gets his revenge on Compeyson, he loses the only 2 things he ever really worked for, his freedom and his fortune. That one single victory cost them absolutely everything he had.
But this is where the story takes a turn. Because the complete and utter failure of this escape plan, that becomes the very thing that forges Pip's real character. With his fortune gone, his expectations shattered, Pip finally gets to find out who he really is.
As Pip is sitting there, taking care of the injured Magwitch, something just clicks. All his old feelings of shame and disgust for this man, what the book calls his repugnance, it all just melts away. And for the very first time, he's not seeing a coarse criminal. He's seeing a kind, loyal, and incredibly generous man who literally sacrificed everything for him. And that realization is so humbling for Pip, because when he sees how good Magwitch is, he has to face his own ugly truths. He realizes that this convict, Magwitch, was a better man to him than he, the so-called gentleman, had ever been to his own family. Like his amazing brother-in-law, Joe. His snobbery, his obsession with class, it's all just shattered in that moment. So when Magwitch, worried about ruining Pip's reputation, tells him to just leave him be, Pip refuses. He makes a promise that really defines this new person he's become. He says, "I will be as true to you as you have been to me." He chooses loyalty to a person over the illusion of status. And that is the moment Pip truly becomes a gentleman.
So this is the new Pip. He doesn't care about appearances anymore. He cares about loyalty. He even goes so far as to protect Magwitch's dying dream by not telling him that the fortune is all gone. Pip has finally learned a lesson that you just can't buy, that kindness and integrity are worth so much more than any amount of money or any fancy reputation. Which really brings us back to that first question. Pip lost everything he thought he wanted. The money, the status, those great expectations. But in that spectacular failure, he found something infinitely more valuable. He found his own character. And it really makes you wonder, what truly defines any of us? Is it the reputation we built for ourselves, or is it the loyalty and the love we show to the people in our lives?
So let's dive into chapter 55 of Great Expectations, because this is where the whole idea of what it means to be wealthy just gets completely turned on its head. It is such a key moment for Pip. He's lost everything he ever thought he wanted, and because of that, he's finally starting to see what actually matters.
And this slide, this really just nails the transformation, doesn't it? For pretty much the entire book, the old Pip had one goal and one goal only: get that fortune, become a gentleman. But now, that whole world has crumbled, and a completely new purpose is taking its place. It has zero to do with money and everything to do with loyalty to another human being.
Okay, so to really get this massive shift in Pip, we have to start with the disaster that caused it all. We're talking about a total collapse. His great expectations aren't just in trouble, they have completely vanished into thin air.
I mean, just look at the wreckage here. The situation is about as bad as it gets. Provis is caught, and the law is crystal clear. All that money, the very money that fueled Pip's dreams and Compasson's obsession, it's all going to be taken by the government. The big chase is over, and the only thing left is a trial and a whole lot of broken pieces.
And how does the professional world react? Well, here's your answer. For Mr. Jaggers, the lawyer, this isn't some deep human tragedy. Oh no. For him, it's just a massive failure of asset management. He's actually annoyed that Pip didn't get his hands on the money before everything went down. To Jaggers, it's not personal, it's just business. And right here, this is the pivot. This is the whole point. Pip's complete lack of concern about the money is what separates him from Jaggers' world forever. The cash, the fortune, the thing that once defined his entire life, it's now just background noise. He genuinely does not care about it anymore. So, with that obsession with wealth finally gone, Pip is free to find a new and, honestly, a much more meaningful reason to get up in the morning. Think about it. All of his energy is no longer going toward keeping up appearances or wondering about an inheritance. His one and only focus now is on Provis. Not Provis the benefactor, but Provis the man, the human being, and giving him some comfort in what will likely be his final days. He's moved from a what can I get view of the world to a what can I give view. And you know, it's funny how things work. Right at the moment Pip is making this huge internal shift, the world seems to offer him a new path. It's not a path to greatness or riches, but one built on real, genuine connection, and it comes from his best friend, Herbert Pocket. See, Herbert's building a life for himself. He's got a solid career move to Cairo, and he's about to marry the woman he loves, Clara. And he even makes this little joke that Clara not having any family is a kind of fortune in itself. It's a funny line, but it really shows you where his values are. They're about personal happiness, not the kind of social climbing that Pip was so obsessed with. Now this is such a great moment. The script says Herbert sheepishly offers Pip a job. So why sheepishly? Well, because he knows that for the man who is supposed to be a gentleman of great expectations, becoming a simple clerk is a massive step down. It's a humble, everyday kind of job. And that's really the question, isn't it? On the surface, this looks like a huge failure for Pip. But is it? Or is this actually a chance to build a real, honest life? A life earned through hard work and grounded in a true friendship? And Pip's answer, wow. It just proves how much he's changed. The old Pip, he would have turned this down out of pure pride. But the new Pip, he turns it down for a totally different reason, his sense of duty to Provis. He's choosing loyalty and self-reflection over a paycheck. Now, Pip isn't the only one in this chapter who shows us a different way of looking at life.
We get this other fantastic example from one of the best characters in the book, the wonderfully weird Wemmick.
So to really get Wemmick, you have to understand his whole philosophy, which is all about Walworth versus Little Britain. Little Britain is his work, the cold, hard, cynical world of Jaggers' law office. But Walworth is his home, his little castle, a place filled with warmth and love, and his aged parent. And his number one rule is you never, ever let the two worlds mix. You have to keep them separate to protect the good one.
So first, Wemmick catches up with Pip and apologizes about the escape plan going so wrong. He's figured out that Compassin was planting rumors to throw him off the scent. It's a nice little moment of professional loyalty. But then things get really interesting.
This is just peak Wemmick. He invites Pip for a walk and tells him, hey, bring a fishing rod, just as a prop to make the whole thing look casual. Then they just happen to wander into a church where, what do you know, Miss Skiffins is waiting, and bam, a surprise wedding breaks out. It is his absolute masterpiece of keeping his personal joy pure and completely separate from the grubby outside world.
And just look at the wedding party. This isn't some big society affair. It's a tiny, perfect circle of people who care. Pip gets to be the best man, and Wemmick's dear old dad, the aged P, gives the bride away. It's so personal and so real.
And here it is, the punchline to the whole event. After this beautiful, heartfelt moment, Wemmick's one and only rule for Pip is, whatever you do not breathe a single word of this at the office. The wall between his two worlds must stay up. The joy of Walworth belongs to Walworth, and Walworth alone.
So what does all this add up to? What is this chapter trying to tell us about real value? What's the kind of fortune that the government can't just take away from you?
Well, this table really breaks it all down pretty clearly. You've got characters like Jaggers and Compassin who live completely in that transactional world of money and deals, but then you have Pip, Herbert, and Wemmick, and they each find a totally different kind of wealth, a much richer kind, in the world of relationships, friendship, love, and private joy.
It turns out, true fortune isn't something you can inherit or scheme to get. It's something you have to build through your connections with other people. It's the loyalty that Pip shows to Provis, the loving partnership Herbert is building with Clara, and that private happiness that Wemmick has created for himself and Miss Skiffins.
And that's really the question that this chapter leaves hanging in the air for all of us. It's only when Pip's entire world of great expectations is utterly destroyed that he can finally see the real treasures that were right in front of him the whole time. It really makes you stop and think. If everything you thought you wanted was suddenly gone, what would you discover is truly valuable?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the dramatic conclusion of Pip's journey in Book 3 of Great Expectations. We're going to focus on chapters 56 and 57, where everything Pip thought he wanted just gets stripped away, revealing what actually matters. All right, let's dive right in by looking at the two Pips side by side. On one hand, you've got the guy who's all about status, money, and what people think of him. But on the other, you have the man who's been humbled by loss. The journey from that first guy to the second is really what it's all about. So our story picks up in chapter 56, and we're dropped right into this incredibly grim courtroom. Pip's benefactor, the convict Provis, is about to face what they call justice. And you're going to see this huge gap between what's legally guilty and what's morally right. And the first thing that hits you is just the scale of it all. Provis isn't being judged alone. No, he's standing there with 31 other people, and all of them are being condemned to death on the very same day. In that moment, they're not people anymore. They're just a number. Then the judge singles Provis out, and he uses this line to basically paint him as a lifelong villain. But we know the real story, right? Pip knows it. Provis only broke the law to survive, to eat. It really makes you feel like the law here is just designed to brand people as criminals, not to understand them. But Provis's response, wow. It says everything about his character. There's no rage, no fighting back, just this quiet, powerful dignity. He's basically saying, I know there's a higher judgment, a truer one, so I can accept this. So let's follow Pip from that courtroom to the prison infirmary. Because while the court delivered its sentence, Pip is about to deliver a different kind of verdict, one that's all about loyalty and compassion. And this is where you see Pip's values just completely flip. Think about it. His great expectations of getting rich are gone. Provis's money is being seized by the government. But his loyalty, it has never, ever been stronger. He's not just writing petitions, he's there by his side every single day. And then, in Provis's last moments, Pip gives him the only gift in the world that could possibly matter. Not money, not freedom. Peace. He tells him his long-lost daughter, Estella, is alive, she's safe, and that Pip himself loves her. It's just an act of pure grace. And with that, Provis dies peacefully, kissing Pip's hand. He's redeemed, you see, not by some legal pardon, but by love, by the loyalty of the boy he turned into a gentleman. He dies as a father who knows his child is safe, not as a criminal. So with Provis gone, we move into chapter 57. And this is where Pip's entire world just utterly collapses. He's deep in debt, he's all alone, and his body just gives out. He falls into this life-threatening fever, totally delirious. When he finally comes to, weeks have passed. And who's sitting there by his side, having nursed him back to health? Joe. This simple, honest man that Pip had grown so ashamed of, the man he treated so cruelly. You know what Joe does here is a perfect example of the idea of grace. Pip feels like he deserves nothing but to be abandoned, right? But Joe offers him nothing but warmth and care and total forgiveness, no questions asked. Pip didn't earn it. Joe just gave it. That's grace. So as Pip starts to get stronger, their old, easy friendship seems to be coming back, and it's really this tender, beautiful time. But as Pip's physical strength returns, a painful social distance starts to creep back in. See, while Pip is sick and completely dependent on him, Joe falls back into their old way of talking. He calls him by his childhood nickname, Old Pip, Old Chap. And for just a little while, it feels like everything's healed. But the second Pip is strong enough to walk around on his own again, it changes. Joe starts calling him Sir. And man, it's just heartbreaking. It's this little word that shows the huge gap that Pip's snobbery created between them is still there. And then comes Joe's final act of kindness. Pip wakes up and finds Joe has left, saying in a note he didn't want to intrude. And with the note is a receipt. Joe has paid off every single one of Pip's debts. A massive burden Pip was way too ashamed to even talk about. Okay, so this is Pip's absolute rock bottom. But you know what? It's also the moment he finally sees clearly. After losing his benefactor, his money, his health, and almost his best friend, he finally understands what really matters. And his new plan for his life shows this complete transformation. I mean, look at it. It's got nothing to do with high society or being a gentleman in London. It's about going home, saying you're sorry, finding love with a good person, and doing honest work. Pip's whole journey has been this incredibly painful lesson in what has real value. He spent years chasing all of that stuff on the left, the money, the status. It took losing everything for him to realize that the true measure of a person is all the stuff on the right. And that really leaves us with this final question, doesn't it? Pip's story makes us look at our own lives and ask, are we chasing some idea of success that other people have defined for us? Or are we trying to build a genuinely great life, one based on loyalty, kindness, and real connection? All right, let's dive into the grand finale of Charles Dickens' masterpiece, Great Expectations. We are jumping right into the last two chapters, Book 3, chapters 58 and 59, to see how Pip's whole incredible, messy, and very human journey finally wraps up. This is where we see what it really means to grow up. I mean, think about it. This is the big question staring Pip right in the face. He's lost his money, his social status, everything he worked for. Even the girl he thought he loved is gone. It's a situation from the 1800s, but wow, does it feel familiar today? What do you do when you have to start over from square one? So we kick off chapter 58 with Pip heading home. But this is no hero's welcome. Oh no. The news that he's completely broke has already made the rounds, and the very village he once felt so superior to is, well, ready to give him a reality check. And the shift is just brutal. Remember how he was treated like a king at the local inn when he had cash? Now he gets nothing but the cold shoulder. It's such a stark lesson. They never really cared about Pip. They only cared about his money. And leading the charge of hypocrisy? You guessed it, Uncle Pumblechuck. The guy is just unbelievable. He makes this huge, loud show of pitying Pip in public. Then, the second he turns his back, he's spreading nasty rumors about how ungrateful Pip is. It's the ultimate betrayal from the guy who tried to take credit for all of Pip's success. You know, sometimes hitting rock bottom is the only way to see things clearly. All of Pip's so-called friends are gone in a flash, and he's left with this huge realization. The only people who ever really cared were the ones who were there before the money, Joe and Biddy. His fall from grace is actually his moment of truth. So, Pip heads to the forge, looking for some real comfort from his real friends. He's even got a plan brewing. Maybe he'll propose to Biddy, settle down, and find happiness in a simpler life. But Dickens isn't done with the plot twists just yet. Talk about timing. He shows up, ready to start this new life, only to find out it's Biddy and Joe's wedding day. The two best people in his life have found happiness with each other. Now, the old Pip would have been crushed, right? But the Pip standing there now, he's a different person. And his reaction is proof of just how far he's come. There's no bitterness, no feeling sorry for himself. Nope, just pure, honest-to-goodness joy for them. He congratulates them, he thanks them for everything they've ever done for him, and he swears he'll pay back every penny he owes Joe. This, right here, is Pip's real redemption. So, what's next? Pip leaves England. He moves all the way to Cairo and starts at the bottom, working as a clerk for his buddy Herbert's company. He's not a gentleman anymore. He just works hard, lives simply, and over 11 years he slowly, quietly builds a successful life for himself, eventually becoming a partner in the firm. And he keeps his word, he pays back Joe completely. And we get this great little reveal that it was Pip's secret investment that got Herbert started in the first place. See, this time, his success isn't about status, it's about integrity. And with that, chapter 58 closes out. And that brings us to the final chapter, chapter 59. 11 years have passed. A much more mature, successful, and truly content Pip comes back to England, back to the forge where his whole story began. 11 years. Just let that sink in. That's a long time. It's enough time for old wounds to heal, for a life to be rebuilt from the ground up, and for a person to totally transform. The man who returns is not the boy who left. He's finally earned his place. And the scene he finds at the forge is just beautiful. It's Joe and Biddy with their little boy, who they named Pip. It's this perfect picture of a happy family. And for the first time, Pip doesn't feel ashamed or common. He just feels like he's home. But there's one last ghost he has to face. He feels himself pulled back to that one place that defined his entire youth, for better and for worse, the crumbling, overgrown ruins of Sada's house. And of course, who does he find there? Estella. She's been through her own kind of hell in an abusive marriage. And all that suffering, it's actually changed her. It's broken through that cold, icy shell that Miss Havisham built around her. She says it herself, she's been broken, but maybe into a better shape. She admits that suffering has taught her more than anything else, and finally given her a heart. Just like Pip had to lose his fortune to become humble, Estella had to lose everything to become human. And this brings us to one of the most famous, most debated endings in all of literature. They walk out of the ruins together, hand in hand, and Pip says he saw no shadow of another parting from her. So, what does that mean? Do they get married? Or are they just two old friends who finally understand each other? But wait, here's a little literary trivia for you. That hopeful, kind of mysterious ending we all know, that wasn't how Dickens originally wrote it. He actually changed it at the last minute. Yeah, in the first version, they meet by chance in London, have a perfectly nice, friendly chat, and then part ways, forever. It was way sadder, and you could argue maybe a little more realistic. But a novelist friend of his basically said, "Come on, Charles, the readers will hate that." So Dickens rewrote it to give us that little glimmer of hope we have today. So it all comes down to this. Dickens leaves the final decision up to us. After everything they've both been through, all the pain and growth, what comes next for Pip and Estella? A deep friendship built on shared experience? Or a real, lasting romance? What do you think their great expectations finally became?